And that was the Nord C by Smok. Now, when it comes to the Nord systems from Smok, they've been going on for a hell of a long time now. We had the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, and recently the 5 that was an 80 watt output device. Now, looks-wise, they've kind of stayed very similar. What does the Nord C possibly offer that none of the other Nords have offered in the past? Let's find out. The specifications for the device itself is very straightforward. This is an 1800 milliamp hour device, rechargeable via the USB Type-C port at the base, has a 1.5 amp charge. Now, nicely enough, when you are charging this, it comes up on the display with the time in minutes that it needs to fully charge. Now, that will vary depending on the charge rate you're actually getting from your source. I found it generally takes around an hour and 20 minutes to charge from all the way down at like 5% all the way up to 100%. Like I say, that will vary quite a bit depending on the cables and all that kind of stuff. It can get a bit technical at times. The device can fire up to 50 watts and the screen, the display is kind of small, but it shows everything on there, all the way from 5 watts up to 50 watts, and it does round robin. Obviously, you've got your battery percentage, the resistance of the coil, the time of the puff, and a small 3-digit puff count as well. With the device, you can obviously lock it. There's also a wattage lock, 5 clicks on, 5 clicks off via the kind of nicely smooth, nicely positioned fire button. Around the other side, you've got your airflow adjustment, which does make a big difference to the actual vape experience itself. The pod has a 4.5mm capacity. You might see it's kind of smoked there. It can be a little bit tricky at times to actually see your e-liquid level. Now, removing the pod is a little bit annoying. You kind of have to try and grip it, which is, there's not much to grip, but you kind of grab it and pop it out. There's no magnets, it's kind of push fit in place. Now, when it comes to leakage, I've had no leakage from this, but you can see just a little bit of condensation in there, so make sure you clean that up as and when you can. Once you pop that back in place to fill, this is a top fill. It's one of those crack to fill methods that I'm not really a big fan of. You just kind of crack it like that. Now, when I first got this device, it was almost impossible to get this cap off, but after a couple of goes, taking it off a few times, it does loosen up. They have a nice little port there and little drain there for air to escape when you're filling. Filling's easy, just getting the lid off can be a little bit on the tricky side. Now, when it comes to feel and finish in the hand, all that kind of stuff, first of all, I really like the colours. The colours that are available for this are really, really nice. I think it's really nicely styled, slightly different to the other Nord devices we've seen. It doesn't feel super premium. It feels a little bit more plasticky, but it still feels fairly solid. Definitely pocket friendly, definitely lightweight, definitely portable, and with that battery capacity, actually not a bad option. I've got the 0.16 ohm RPM2 mesh coil installed, recommended between 25 and 50 watts. I've got it at the maximum 50 watts. I've got the airflow all the way open. Let's give it a little bash. For what this is, vapor production is awesome. Really, really good. With that airflow open, you're getting a very comfortable direct lung vape. It's slightly airy, but it's also slightly restrictive, if that makes sense. It's a decent, comfortable, direct lung vape. Flavour is very good. I've been using this coil for a good couple of days. I've had no problems when it comes to flavour. I've had no flavour degradation as well. It's held up really, really well. Overall, this is a really good coil and a really good system for a direct lung vape. Sure, at that 50 watts, you're going to be draining through battery life pretty quickly, but I'm happily compensate a bit more charging in order to get a decent vape from this device. The 0.6 ohm RPM2 DC coil is recommended between 12 and 25 watts. It's what they're calling a mouth to lung coil. It's also a round wire coil, which I didn't even know existed anymore. So I've got that at 20 watts. I've got the airflow all the way down at its minimum. Let's give it a little bash. First of all, when it comes to restriction, that's the important thing. I don't really think they should call this a mouth to lung coil. It's really not. There's just too much airflow, even with that airflow all the way at its minimum. It's just, I find I'm putting it in air from all sorts of places, and I can't really draw tight enough for it to feel like a mouth-to-lung vape. If anything, this is a restrictive direct lung. So I'm going to open that airflow all the way up. I'm going to leave it at 20 watts, give that a little bash. Much better. Actually performs not bad. In comparison to the 0.16 ohm coil, the difference is massive, but it still performs okay, and definitely with that 20 watts wattage output, you're going to be saving a hell of a lot of battery life. But personally, the direct lung with the 0.16 is miles better than this 0.6 ohm coil. Finally, just a little comparison between the two. This one being the Nord 5, this one obviously the Nord C that I've been talking about. The Nord 5 had a 2000 milliamp hour battery, could fire up to 80 watts. Now I must say, in the hand, the Nord 5 is heavier, but kind of nicer feeling. It feels more sturdy, it feels solid, and also you've got this kind of soft squishiness on either side as well. A more chunky device, definitely a bit chunkier, but maybe felt just a little bit more premium. So my nitpicks and good bits with the Nord C by Smok. Well, nitpicks first, as always, and starting off with one that I've pretty much already mentioned, is the crack to fill mouthpiece. Now, it has loosened up, which is nice, but I just don't like this method, and it's just really annoying. To fill it itself is absolutely fine, but this mouthpiece, no, it just drove me mad. I wish I could show you the unedited section when I was putting this together on the table cam. It just drove me wild. Second of all, there is no auto draw feature with this device, which is a little bit of a shame for these kind of style systems, these small pick up and go kind of devices. I just find them a little bit more easier to use when they've got an auto draw feature. So this is a fire button only device. The third one is a weird one, really. It's more of a comparison to something like the Nord 5, which has a better battery capacity, higher wattage output, and it's definitely a little bit more diverse and feels a lot more premium. And I don't know the price of the Nord C in comparison to the Nord 5, but I hope that Smok priced this accordingly, considering the features they're actually losing in comparison to the Nord 5. Now, when it comes to good things, first of all, when it comes to the flavour and performance, yes, it performs really, really well. I'm really happy with the RPM2 coil, specifically the 0.16 ohm coil. The flavour and the vape production from that coil is absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed that. Now, the battery life is pretty good, 1800 milliamp hour, but you will sacrifice that battery life when you've got this at 50 watts all day. You're just not really going to get a full day's life when you're using this at 50 watts. The pod capacity is great. The push fit cores are fine. It's got replaceable cores, which is always really, really nice. Yeah, it's a nice pocket friendly device. It's comfortable and it works absolutely fine. But I keep going back in the back of my mind to the Nord 5 and just thinking that was just a little bit better. So I hope that's helpful, folks. If it was, hit the like button or subscribe if you fancy it. Don't forget to join me on Fridays at 9 PM Flat Cap Fridays live stream. And a massive thanks to Smok for sending this over for review. I'm Flat Cap Vapor. Thanks for watching.